Well, and the bottom line is it's year 7, right? I mean, if this were the first year, second year, it'd be one thing. But he ain't going anywhere, right? He just got an extension.
But for the fans, the Jackals, the heat would be on.
It's going to be Shanahan.
He's keeping the job, and Steiny always talks about that. Guru, it's not Super Bowl or bust because Kyle's not going anywhere. But I'll say in the court of public opinion, he would lose a lot, and Kyle could probably care less, but he would lose a lot of luster if somehow they don't get this done. But Larry, real quick, I wanted to ask your buddy too. What about if Brock Purdy and the offense looks like the offense and they lose 41-38 and this defense pulls another last week version of themselves? I think Kyle would be protected in the sense that Wilks' unit. Kyle doesn't oversee the defense, or are you going to tell me, and I get it because people have, well, he's overseer of the whole team. But if the D has a bad outing that cost him the game and the offense showed up, then I'm thinking, just even from the fans, okay, hey, now we can hone in on Wilks, and I wonder if his job is in jeopardy.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I don't know if you looked at the Wilks Wikipedia, but, I mean, he's been everywhere and back. I mean, the guy's had like 20 jobs in 23 years. I mean, he is truly a nomadic coach. He goes from A to B to C to D. Oh, yeah. Steve Wilks has been absolutely everywhere. In a way, I feel like it would almost be wrong if he got dumped, though, because he didn't have a chance to come in here and run his own show. He didn't run.
Well, now, what does that mean? Like, did D'Amico and Robert Saleh have that chance? What does that mean?
Well, he's not running his system. He's running the Niners system. He came here eyes wide open to run their system. You know, they liked what they had up front with Chris Kasarik and this wide 9 defensive front. You know, Kyle has a hard time going against it as an offensive coach. He really likes it. They didn't want to tear the whole thing down. They felt like they had momentum. So Steve came in and adapted to the Niners, not to, usually you go get a defensive coordinator, he brings in his system. But instead, he adapted to their system. And then in the middle of the year, when things weren't going well, Steve likes to coach from the bird's eye view. Why? Because he's a former defensive back at Appalachian State, so he wants to see the coverage. But the Niner players were used to having that voice on the sideline, and they said, Steve, no, you're not coaching in the booth. Now you're going to coach on the sideline. So he's adapted to them all the way through. But, yeah, I mean, if you look at where he's been, he played as a player with the Charlotte Rage in 1993.
Right.
Then we're talking about, Savannah State, Illinois State, Appalachian State, East Tennessee State, Bowling Green, Notre Dame, UW, Bears in 2006 to 2008, Chargers 2009, 2011, a couple years there, Carolina 2012 to 2014. Then he was the assistant head coach with Carolina. Then he was in Arizona as the head coach in 2018. Then he was in Cleveland in 2019, back at Missouri as the DC in 2021, Carolina Panthers 2022, Niners, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
I get it.
We're talking about, and it's
flyer miles.
And I don't know. I mean, what, and I don't want to say like, oh, that's definitely means something, or he wears out his welcome. A lot of these could have been promotions. I'm not
right.
Yeah, it's not necessarily.
Where are we at?
But it always makes you wonder:
is it the players or the coach? Because we're getting to the nitty gritty now. That if they have another subpar performance, just me by nature, I find it hard for you, Larry. And I'm not saying you are, or Evan, or anybody to tell me going into this season, all hands on deck. The Niners defense was a position of strength collectively, regardless of who wasn't coming back. And you added Hargrave. He was under the Christmas tree. So 8 months later, we're all ready to say, you know what, Goo? They lost this and that. Well, when they wrote that check for Bosa, I believe the Niners brass thought that was the anchor to a D that was going to cause havoc. So, and Larry, where I live, the sectors where I live in the U, my phone, black on black crime. Goo, were you trying to run the black coordinator out of the game? No, I'm fair. I'm just saying it's either Kyle or the defensive coordinator if they don't get their stuff right in a week. And I would tend to think, from my experience in sports, sometimes the coordinators are the fall guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to here's the thing. If the 49ers fall short, there's going to have to be a significant pivot, right? Significant pivot. I don't know who that's going to be. I don't know what that's going to be. But it's not going to be Kyle Shanahan.
No doubt about it.
It's not going to be John Lynch.
I got that.
They just, Adam Peters has moved on, so Lynch is not going anywhere. And Lynch just got an extension. It's not going to be Kyle Shanahan.
First question to a possible defensive coordinator. Can you get number 97 to get to the quarterback in the playoffs? Like, that would be the first question for a D coordinator. You might laugh, but Larry, is there a connection?
Is it on Kasarik? Is it on the front? Or is it on the back end? I'll say this. I like the way Diamador Lenoir is playing. And Charvarius Ward, when he can keep his feet, has looked pretty good. The rest of those guys don't look good. I mean, right now, Logan Ryan doesn't, he'd like to throw that film out. He was like, basically wasn't making tackles. Ambry Thomas tackling receivers. Tayshaun Gibson, a step late or falling to the ground. Jair Brown didn't get on the field. The rest of a guy like Samuel Womack was a 5th-round pick. He was inactive this week. So, I think they're going to look to somebody who's going to help them on the back end. And on paper, it should be Wilks. I threw out a crazy idea, and I know a lot of people thought I was absolutely nuts, but is Belichick want to be a head coach? Belichick's like in his 70s. There's all kinds of examples.
He's got a second interview with Atlanta, but
does he want that? Does he want to be a head coach? Does he want that record? Does he want Don Shula's record, or does he just want to win another ring? Because you can pay him whatever you want. How about pay Bill Belichick?
No,
he's tight with Shanahan. Why not pay Bill Belichick big cash and say, hey, you're the best defensive backfield coach maybe in the history of the game.
Man. What Niner fan would say no to that?
You got Womack, you got Brown, you've got Ambry, you got Lenoir, you got Luter, you've got all these young DBs, you got Talanoa Hufanga. How about Bill Belichick, cut him the fat check? You're going to have a significant pivot point to something major. And the head coach ain't going anywhere, the quarterback's not going anywhere, and the general manager's not going anywhere. So I don't know what it is. I'm not sure what.
But you're not mad in my thought process of just, and again, I'm not pointing Wilks out, but it is, I'm watching these games like, man, this is under your watch.
Yeah.
This is your unit.
It's his show on defense. And he had the high-profile gaffe against the Vikings on the zero coverage on Jordan Addison at the end of the first half. But I think, overall, the 49er defense and Wilks has done a decent job, but they've lost a lot of personnel that's good against the run, and they've replaced it with guys that aren't as good against the run. It's kind of selling out for kind of a pass rush deal, and now their pass rush is not getting home. So you went for Hargrave.
It's weird watching it, too.
Yeah, they're not getting home. They're not getting home. So now the NFL is an interesting thing, too. It's like, I kind of wonder if the wisdom is it right to throw all your money on defense into your defensive line in a league where it's so easy to neutralize a great defensive line by these 3-step drops and get the ball out? If you want to not have your quarterback sacked, you could drop 3 steps and get the ball out all day. But then can you dial up the coverage behind it? And is your coverage tied to your rush and so on and so forth? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but the Niners, the Niners are I bet you anything. Jed York went to John and Kyle and said, you know what? I know you got your quarterback knocked out against Philly, but a quarterback and quarterback injuries are no longer going to be an acceptable excuse going forward for why you don't contend for that 6th Lombardi. So I don't know what the Niner pivot point's going to be. Let's hopefully not have to think about negative thoughts on that front. Should we take one more here?
Let's do it.
Let's go to Danker. Danker's been waiting patiently. Danker, thanks for being patient, man.
No problem. Thanks, guys. For the people who have questions about Brock, it's the gridiron for a reason. It's chess, And to me, the smartest play was when on the last drive, when he tucked the ball and he actually changed and stayed in bounds.
When he ran and cut it back inside and he took the hit.
Exactly.
The 3 or 5 or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, it took the hit like a stud, And I don't know what these guys want. It's like every team runs a system. I think if you say, it's just a system quarterback, maybe you don't understand your system or whatever. Long story short, I think, the quarterback is an extension of the head coach. And, Jimmy was proving to make bad decisions. So people who compare Brock to Jimmy, it's like, I don't know what they're watching. To me, again, Brock's bad games are the wet ball thing. And the problem was Brock obviously hasn't acclimated to a glove. So I would say after this season, he should rock the glove from now on. Might sound crazy, but I wouldn't let Mother Nature be the X factor.
Danker, let me just ask you this. That Raven game, which was a home game, there wasn't a drop on the field in regard to weather.
Well, that first interception, Kittle flattened out his route. If he continues to the end zone, he pulls the safety. That's a touchdown. We have a hold. That's a 14-point swing, you know. There's a lot of little things that happen in these games that have huge outcomes. And Shanahan's smart enough to know to not run his team into a wall. And as far as Wilks, I really think that Larry, you know, obviously, once again, you nailed it. The injuries have changed the way we're able to come at teams. So my whole thing would be like, let's at least create some blitz bluffs. Because if we create any hiccup to get someone through, you know, that one hesitation could be everything. So that's kind of my
your breakdown. We hear you. Thanks, Danker. Appreciate the call, and it opens up a line, 888-957-9570. You know, on the hand thing, you know, it's not hand size. I'm looking at the hand size chart of all the NFL quarterbacks. Okay,
the ball slipped. Go ahead, Larry, because the ball slipped out of his hand in Chicago. Remember that. He was luckily able to pounce. So I'm not saying they're little, but something's up when the ball's wet.
Who's got the biggest hands in the NFL, quarterback-wise?
Carson Wentz. He just got a job, but
let's see.
Dak got little hands, too, to me.
You said Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
You're very familiar with Carson Wentz's hand size.
Yeah, he was an Eagle.
Let me see. He is on here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 10-inch hands. So the biggest hands of any quarterback in the NFL are Jordan Love.
Come on.
Jordan Love, 10.5-inch hands.
Well, maybe that's why he wasn't having a problem throwing
10.5-inch hands for Jordan Love. Russell Wilson, 10.25. So obviously hand size and height don't go hand in hand.
Give me Lamar's.
Lamar's hand size.
He plays in bad weather, and they having problems.
Lamar's got 6-inch hands. No. Lamar's got 9.5.
Okay.
9.5.
And Brock, what did you say Brock was?
I don't even see Brock on here. I think Brock's are also 9.25. Right. Same as Mahomes.
But what was your initial thought when you saw the glove? I didn't like it. We were talking about it yesterday.
I talked to him earlier this year about it. He said, you know, he has worn a glove in college at times. And yeah, I'm not an advocate of going to the glove unless you really have a lot of experience with it. Because I mean, you know, now the gloves are very tacky.
Yeah.
I mean,
9.25.
There's a lot of tack on those gloves. I mean, have you ever touch receiver gloves, or if you have a kid who plays high school football and you receiver, I mean, the gloves are incredible. We've seen some of the greatest wide receiver catches of all time.
Oh, Beckham, that was because of the glove, I believe. I ain't hating Odell.
There was the Steeler tight end, whoever this rookie tight end from Georgia, made a catch at the Combine last year that was just like, he just caught the
Spider-Man stuff.
It was just ridiculous. Yeah. It got stuck in there. It was like, what?
Lester Hayes.
But it's also about just, how you. The one thing I've never seen is what we saw in this game this weekend, where Brock went back to pass and literally took his hand in the middle of a play and rubbed it on his pant leg to dry it off. So obviously the moisture, he doesn't feel comfortable about the grip that he's getting on the football.
We were commended, FP was commending Fox on just, playing that back. But I'll say this, the glove was symbolic to me, Larry, regardless if it worked or not. There's something upstairs was going on for him to think he needed it. You know what I mean? So already you were kind of at a disadvantage because you're hoping it works. And then he came back with it off. I was like, oh, my gosh, if I'm Green Bay, I'm loving this.
Did you guys know that Jared Goff has smaller hands than Brock Purdy?
And I never,
by a half inch.
I would have never known that.
Where'd you get that information?
I just looked it up.
I'm just joking. Yeah, Jared Goff has on the small hands. He's got 9-inch hands. So, but you know who also has tiny little hands? Joe Burrow.
And
Joe Burrow's pretty damn good.
Yeah, no doubt. And he plays in weather.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield. The smallest hand in the league is Taysom Hill, 8 3/4 hands. Then you have Burrow, Tannehill, and Goff with 9-inch hands. Those would be the smallest.
So there is nothing to it. Well, obviously,
I don't know if there's anything to it.
we know Brock doesn't like the wet ball, and it might not be because of hand size. The feel.
Right.
Yeah.
The guys who have the biggest hands, Josh Allen, 10 and 8 eighth, Aaron Rodgers, 10 and an eighth, Russell Wilson, 10 and a quarter. As I said, Jordan Love, 10 and a half, Gardner Minshew, 10 and an eighth. So there you go.
Josh Allen threw a ball in weather the other night, Larry, and he looked like Hercules. I thought the ball was going to go out the stadium. I'm like, dude, you might not win a damn thing, but you got a cannon.
He's got a
absolute that's just
cannon.
ridiculous. Evan, the ball almost went out the stadium. It felt like and Diggs dropped it, but good God.
But Jarius Sneed just absolutely shut down Diggs twice this year.
You know what? I think Diggs is, I'm ready to say, not overrated. In big game, you got to come up bigger if you're going to talk, man.
Who do you like, by the way, in the AFC game this weekend?
Larry, I was rooting for Lamar. I thought it was destiny, but I think we're watching Michael Jordan in regard to Patrick Mahomes. And I'll say this to Josh Allen. You may be Patrick Ewing. You may have just come up, Karl Malone, Barkley. You were just around at the wrong time because Jordan was there to just take your rings. And now that they got Rice back and guys are catching the ball, I expect him to go win that game in Baltimore.
I do too. I like Kansas
City.
City.
That I'm saying that.
But Jarius Sneed is going to take away Zay Flowers, and then it's Nelson Aguilar time now.
Rashad
Bateman.
Yeah, I get it. No. And the quiet be kept. Texans kept. I was like, hey, what's going on here, Lamar? I'm not blaming you, but they had him bottled up in that pocket a little bit of that game to where I'm like, oh, Lamar don't look comfortable. And then he started getting to the outside.
By the way, in one more hand size, Trey Lance, 9 and an eighth. So Purdy's were 9 and a quarter. Trey Lance, who's 6'4", 220, 9 and an eighth.
Hashtag random. I think Trey Lance is closer to playing in Dallas, and I know we're up against it, than we ever thought.
Wouldn't that be something?
No doubt about it.
I'll say this, and I've been on the record of saying this, and I'll stay with it. I'm going to be consistent. I like Trey Lance.
You mean
and
that?
I really do. And I think Trey Lance is going to have a significant NFL career. It's going to take a while, but he is going to figure it out.